Hey there. We are back. It has been a little while and I miss you guys and ladies. Okay, first thing is I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Okay, spread the news, let everybody know what we're doing. Also, if you haven't yet read my book on this subject, okay, go ahead and get it. It's What Preachers Never Tell You About Tithes and Offerings. You can get it at Amazon. Print copy, I think it's about $6.99. Ebook, $2.99. It's not going to break you. All right. You may know somebody who needs it, so you can spread the word to them as well. And before I start, look, see this cup? Let me turn it around so you can see. It says Dad, and I can't pronounce the word, but anyway, my daughter went to Hawaii, brought me back a mug. It's been a while ago, but anyway, I cooked dinner for her the other night, and she bust me out actually. Dad, you've been drinking out of my cup. Nah, no. Why? Like, I'll drink from it tomorrow, Erica. And you know what? I drank from it the next day, and I have to admit, the coffee tastes better. Sign of a true man of God. Coffee. All right. So here's what we're going to talk about today. 5 common money manipulations of preachers. All right. And I want to begin by reading in Matthew 6th chapter. It's a familiar verse or passage. You'll recognize it. 6th chapter, verses 1 through 4, dealing with giving. And this is reading out of the New King James Version. Come on, you King James people, don't stone me. New King James. Take heed. This is verse 1, chapter 1, chapter 6, verse 1. Take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men, or your giving before men, to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. Therefore, when you do a charitable deed, do not sound the trumpet before you as the hypocrites, as they do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory from men. Surely I say to you, they have their reward. But when you give, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, that your giving may be in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will himself reward you openly. Now, let me note a few things here. Don't let your giving be known before men, or don't do it for the sake of being known before men or women. Okay. And he says this: if you do that, if your motives are to be seen of people, then he said, you have no reward from your Father. Now, look, before we start saying, oh, I don't care anything about rewards, you need to consider who you're saying that about. We're talking about Almighty God, who said he has created new heavens and a new earth, and it is his pleasure to give us the kingdom. We're going to live for eternity with God in a new heaven and a new earth, and he has incredible rewards to give us. So, look, you need to back off of that statement and that kind of thinking that, well, I don't care about rewards from God. Yes, you do. You're going to care when you stand before him and he shows you the possibilities of an infinite God. I bet you if Bill Gates said to you, oh, I just want to reward you lavishly, just want to make you a multimillionaire. No, Bill. I'm not into rewards. I don't care about, being a multimillionaire. You wouldn't say that. You'd be like, lay it on me, Big Daddy Bill. So let's come on, let's think rationally and reasonably. Almighty God wants to reward us. And so he says this: if you are going to give for the sake of being seen, he says you've lost your reward. That's huge. Let me get this Bible off this thing so we can stop shaking. We are not in an earthquake. I don't want you to think we are. I'm not in California. Okay, so I say to you, they have their reward. When you do your good deed, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Your Father sees in secret; He'll reward you openly. Sometimes here, but we know most definitely everybody's going to be compensated, as He put it, at the resurrection of the just. So here, there, you're going to be rewarded by God. All right. Now, there are some times where, just for practical purposes, it would be impractical for your good deed to not be known. It's just, God is not saying, you know, uh, run yourself ragged, not being, or run yourself ragged, uh, uh, keeping this secret. Do something that's just ridiculous, keeping the secret. It's not about whether or not the thing is known. It's what's your motivation in doing it. There is a scripture where God said, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So in that case, different scenario, you're doing something and you hope it is known to the world or to others whom you can influence. So who determines whether or not your heart was right when you did it? Almighty God will. Okay. So what we're doing right now with dealing with these 5 common money manipulations of preachers, some of these events or these practices, we will not know the intent of the person's heart when they do it. But we do know whether or not it is a good practice or not. The practice itself can be judged and be judged with some certainty. The heart of the person, well, we may not know their heart, and God has not called us to, judge what's going on inside of someone's heart. Now, the word of God itself can judge what's going on inside someone's heart, and we most definitely are called to identify behavior that is godly and ungodly. Okay, but what we're dealing with right here are 5 common money manipulations of preachers. And here we go. Let's start off with number, and you will recognize some of these, unfortunately. Number 1, telling those who have no money to come up front and touch the money basket, or in some cases, the bucket. Come up front. You don't have any money? Come up front. Now, the preacher, and I wrote down a few little notes here. The preacher may think that this is spiritual. He could. You have no money. It's offering time. Come up front, touch the money bucket. I don't know. Maybe he or she thinks that this is an act of faith on your part. You would love to give to God, but you don't have anything, so you're coming up front and you're touching the bucket. Could be. That could be what's in their heart. I don't know what's in their heart. I do know some possibilities. So let's deal with these possibilities. Well, before I deal with that possibility, let me deal with this. This is something I do know for sure. This is humiliating. You are broke. You're already broke. I mean, that's a bad situation anyway, right? You're broke. You're sitting in church, and now it's time for the offering. It's like, here we go. And now you can't just sit there inconspicuously, because the leadership of the church, they have deliberately designed the giving so that everybody, how do I put this here? If you have no money, they want you to come up front and touch the bucket. Well, this is humiliating. Who wants everybody to know that they're broke? Right? And look, let me also say this. Look, guys, you're single. You're looking for a girl? Bro, don't go up there and touch that bucket. You do not need those ladies to know that you are broke. Now, lady, she can go up there, and she can touch the bucket, and some dude is still gonna want her. You, on the other hand, you don't need to be touching the bucket. You don't have any cash. Don't go around there telling everybody that you're broke. You see, that's humiliating. Nobody wants to be known as the broke one. And preachers know this. They know it. So what is this? It's peer pressure. This is going to it's going to put peer pressure on you to give. And that's not a good way to give. Paul told the Corinthian church, God doesn't get any pleasure out of somebody giving out of compulsion. And this is compulsion. This is being pressed into giving. And I'm not talking about being pressed, excuse me. Throat getting dry. I'm not talking about being pressed by the obligation of love. That's a true compulsion of the Holy Spirit. I'm talking about being pressed, obligated by this practice, this design to put peer pressure on people to give because they don't want to be embarrassed. Don't fall for that. Okay? You're sitting there and the offering time is there, and they say anybody with no money still come up front and touch the basket. Now, me, I'm not doing that. I see myself as a grown person, and I don't like the idea of some man or woman uh, treating me like I'm a little puppy. Come up front and touch the bucket. I don't want to go up front and touch the bucket. That's not being rebellious. That's being an adult. I don't want to touch the bucket. I think this is demeaning. I think it indignifies a person. I think it is humiliating, and I think it's manipulation. Okay. And it definitely goes against what the Lord said about letting your right hand not know what your left hand is doing. Keep these things secret. Preachers should be devising ways as much as possible, as much as practicable, as practical or practicable, to keep things secret. Okay. So that's number one, telling those who have no money to come up front and touch the money bucket. Number one. Number two, compelling everyone to go up front for the offering. And I say this is making it hard and embarrassing to not give. Well, think about it. Everybody's sitting down. It's time for the offering. All right, everybody stand. Everybody, yeah, everybody. What if I don't want to give? Everybody stand. Come up front to give. So now we're not just talking about the people with no money. We're saying everybody, this is how we've designed it. You're all going to walk up front, in the front, and you're going to give in front of everybody. Well, that's not necessarily designed with evil intent, but it certainly is manipulation. It certainly does put peer pressure on someone. I'm going up there. People are watching me. It's up front. And you're saying, I have to go up front, even if I have no intentions on giving, even if I don't have anything to give. So here's the deal. I walk up front and now I'm under pressure. So some people, they're pretty strong. They can walk right by that bucket and say, look, I don't care what you think. Right? Some people like me can sit down and says, I'm not going up front. I don't want to walk up front. This is ridiculous. If I'm not giving anything, I shouldn't walk up front. Plus me, you've been around for 40 years. You've sat through a whole bunch of offerings, and you just get tired of the manipulations that are put out there. All right. So anyway, this makes it hard and embarrassing to not give. And so I believe you're under no compulsion to give in to this practice. Okay. And I do not believe that is rebellion against the man of God. I believe you are exercising your right as an adult to not, you're not a trained animal. You're a human being, just like those people are who are collecting the offering. You have a right to say, no, I ought not to do that. And if they feel that's rebellion, then that really is not the right place for you. Because if they think something that simple as you just sitting in your chair and not going up there like a little trained puppy, if they think that is rebellion, there's a whole lot of other things they feel are rebellion also. And so you don't have to sacrifice your adulthood to be a good Christian. Okay. Number 3, announcing the amount someone gives. Oh boy, I've seen this more than once. And why would somebody do this? I remember one time I was in a church and they got into a building fund. And that's, you get into those building funds, you're going to have all kinds of wild schemes to raise funds. You're going to have all kinds of opportunities to violate God's principle of giving, where he said, keep things secret. All right. So these people, I don't know where they got the cash from, sold some property, whatever, gave $50,000, for the building fund. Now, is there anything wrong with giving $50,000 to the building fund? No, absolutely not. I'm not saying that that is wrong. And I depart from a lot of my anti-tithes brothers and sisters. And I'm not afraid of a building. I don't believe a building is either godly or ungodly. It's just a building. Okay. It's impractical to put 200 people in your living room. All right. I mean, it's impractical to put 1,000 people in your living room. So, I mean, go get a building if that's what your ministry requires. You're going to stand before God for whatever you do. Okay. So I'm not into condemning somebody because they have a building. I care more about whether or not they are obviously going against the word of God and teaching others to do so, and whether or not they are exploiting, manipulating, bribing, beating, cajoling God's people. Now, I do care about that, and I believe the scriptures speak very plainly about that. Okay, so they gave $50,000, which was awesome, but then the preacher calls them up in front of all of us to, I don't know. Well, no, I do know because I was there. Pat them on the back and just hold them up and talk about how they, I think they did sell some property. And that's wonderful that they did that. And I'm assuming that their hearts are right. I have no idea of knowing that their heart was right. Okay, so they gave. But the evil thing was when the preacher called them up. This is in direct conflict with what Jesus said to keep it secret. Okay, so now, why would the preacher do that? Well, so that we can see what this person did and we can follow their example. I don't think that's a good thing. Now, my opinion, had this been maybe there was some emergency or some, obviously great work and probably a critical work that was time sensitive, and people we needed to raise funds quickly to help someone who was in dire need, and this person had sacrificed, and you want to say, hey, look, let's give you an example, to provoke the rest of the to provoke the rest of the body into good works. Perhaps it would be okay to say, hey, so and so did this, and they sacrificed. Perhaps, God can judge that. Perhaps that would be a good thing. And the reason why I say perhaps is because the money is not going directly to the person who is calling out the people who gave. Now, when you call out the person and you celebrate the giving of someone who gave to you, now, I mean, I am looking. Jesus said to be wise as serpents. Now I'm looking because there's a good possibility you're trying to raise some more money for yourself. Okay, so that's why I'm looking there. But all I'm saying is that there could be some instances where uh, celebrating a person's sacrifice. Thank you, Lord. Uh, Paul did that. He was talking to the Corinthians, I believe, and he mentioned how the Macedonians, I believe he mentioned how the Macedonians had sacrificed to give, but this was all godly. Okay, so there are times when someone's example can be highlighted for the sake of the gospel. And it may be that on the surface, none of us will be qualified to judge that person's heart. And that's okay, because look, I'm not volunteering for that job anyway. I've got enough. Look, I'm busy enough trying to judge my own heart to make sure I'm right before God. So I'm not trying to judge someone's heart, but we can judge practices. God said to prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. We're commanded to prove all things. Okay, he said that to the Thessalonians. All right, so here's one thing you get when someone calls you out for your example of giving. You get the preacher's favor and praise. Just like these people did. Oh, the preacher was happy. We know that, right? The preacher was happy, or he would not have called them forward. So is there anything wrong with making the preacher happy? No, there's not. Is there anything wrong with having his favor? No, not at all. But here's the thing. Do we really want to go on record with heaven as doing something to inspire giving in the hearts of God's people, and we're causing them to give with the motivation of getting a pat on the back from the preacher, or to making the preacher smile? And I've seen this, where the man of God, you go up and give to the man of God, and the man of God is going to pray for the man of God is happy. Oh my gosh. Look, we're not giving to make the man of God happy. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making a man of God happy, a woman of God happy. That's not the end result. The person we're trying to make happy is Jesus. Okay? And so we don't want to get into giving for the sake of winning some preacher's praise and favor. That's not the end result. Now I wrote this down. Deflect the praise. A lot of times you're going to give, and for whatever reason, it's going to be known what you give. Okay, it's not a sin if it's known. The motive of the heart is what God is looking at. But here's the thing: human nature is something else. People, it's good to celebrate people's good walk with the Lord and stuff like that. But sometimes we can go overboard. Sometimes we can push we can get into idolatry. We can push ourselves into an area where we're really, I don't know, we're just highlighting somebody so much that they can get puffed up. We can push them over into an area that perhaps they didn't even desire to be. People talk about, oh, you're such a great teacher. Oh, you're such a great teacher. Oh, you're awesome. You're just like, okay, praise God. That's awesome. Here's the deal. Like for me, I know I have a teaching gift. Well, I have a teaching gift. Think about it. You have a singing gift, you have a singing gift. If you have a beautiful voice, you have a beautiful voice. There's no godliness in lying about it, right? If God has blessed you, he has blessed you. But the thing is, you have to remain humble and gracious before the Lord. Okay, so you don't vaunt yourself and get all big-headed because you have a gift from God. But what happens a lot of times is people can praise you so much that you get to be like the devil. You know, and Paul was told Timothy that that's what happened to the devil. He got praised so much that he began believing all of that stuff, and he began to focus on himself rather than the one who made him great. That's what I'm talking about. So learn to deflect the praise. If you gave sacrificially, that was awesome. I mean, you know in your heart that is awesome. In God's eyes, that's awesome. Keep that between you and the Lord. I mean, don't run around saying, hey, what I did, that was awesome. Come on. You don't want to lose your reward, okay? Let God reward you. But when people heap all that praise on you, I'm not talking about getting into false modesty and saying, oh, no, that was all God. Come on. Come on. You sang the song and it was beautiful. That wasn't all God. You sang the song. It was beautiful. Just say, thank you. You taught a message and it was awesome. Thank you. Okay. You gave and it was sacrificial and it met a great need. Thank you. Okay. No problem. Right. We don't have to get into false modesty, but just in your own heart, learn to deflect the praise, because quite often people will use you and they will set up a system in church whereby your giving will be known, and people know human nature. We want to be praised. And so that's a way to get more money out of your pocket, is to set up a system where the people giving are celebrated. And then you say, whoa, that felt good having everybody celebrate me. Think I'll give some more. That's not a good thing. All right. Number 4, asking people to raise their hand so someone in the audience can give them money to give. Here we go. You're broke. Preacher says, look around. Anybody broke? Raise your hand. I'm not raising my hand if I'm broke. Why? Because I'm rebellious? No, because it's none of your business. You say, but that's the man of God. I didn't say he wasn't a man of God or this wasn't a woman of God. I said it's none of that man of God's business. It's not any of that woman of God's business. But he's the pastor. She's the pastor. I didn't say they weren't. They're anointed of the Lord. Didn't say they weren't. I said this is none of their business whether or not I am broke or not. Okay? That's not their business. Just because somebody is in a leadership role does not mean it's their business whether or not I'm broke. So just because they say from the pulpit, if you're broke, raise your hand, I'm under no obligation from God to raise my hand. And I'm not doing it. Why? It's humiliating. I already don't like being broke. So now I'm going to raise my hand. All right. So you raise your hand. And like I said before on another issue, the preacher may think this is spiritual. They may think there's something, I don't know, magically spiritual about you raise your hand and then the other people in the church can give to you. Well, on the surface, that could be a good thing, right? You look around and your brother or sister, they don't have anything to give. So here's the deal. The preacher says, give them some money to give. Now listen, they're not saying give them some money to help them. Ask them about their utility bills. Ask them how much gas is in their car. Ask them, do they have health insurance? They're not asking that. They're not telling you to do that. They're saying, look around you. If someone has their hand up, give them some money for what? To meet their needs? No. Give them some money to give. So do something that's going to benefit this ministry or benefit me. Now, I'm not saying the ministry is not doing a good work. I'm not saying the money is going into the preacher's pocket. I'm not saying there's anything overtly evil about the particular ministry that is telling you to do this, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I can't just make a carte blanche statement about every single ministry, the quality of the ministry that's doing it. I'm talking about the practice itself. The practice is wrong. The practice is manipulation. Okay, so whether the preacher think it's spiritual or not, for somebody to raise their hand if they're broke, and for me to look over there and hand them some money, I do know this: it's humiliating for an adult to be told to raise their hand and say, I'm broke. This is America. I mean, in America, you look at somebody broke and you're thinking, why are you broke? Are you lazy? Are you incompetent? Are you just unwise? I mean, you got these things going through your mind. I mean, there could be some other reasons why they're broke. The issue is nobody wants to run around with a sign saying I'm broke. And so for a preacher to do this, I look at it as a high probability that this is manipulation. And I know for certainty that this is it evokes peer pressure. It's humiliating. You're under no obligation to raise your hand to do that. Okay. Now, and the last one, asking, quote, tithers, in the quote, to give their testimonies, asking those who subscribe to the financial tithe system, which is a totally man-made fundraising scheme of preachers to raise money. It's a fundraising scheme. Okay, it's not biblical. There never has been a financial tithe system, not in the Old Testament, not in the New Testament. There is no such thing biblically. This is a church tradition. It is not Bible doctrine. However, people who believe they must give this 10%, whether it's off gross or net, whatever, they're categorized as tithers. Okay, so the preacher will say, here's tither, Mr. and Mrs. Tither, get up and give your testimony. Why? Why would you do that? Well, it could be a good thing, right? Perhaps they're all, I mean, through some way, this preacher who says he is a man of God, a spokesperson for the kingdom of heaven. He's read the Bible, and somehow or another, he has concluded, or she has concluded, and I say he because there are many more male preachers than there are female. Okay, I mean, it's 10-1. It's just many more. I mean, you look around, go to any church, go to 100 churches, and how many female pastors do you see? That's why, I say so often he. All right, so you have these tithers, and they give, and it could be that the preacher just said, well, yeah, he read the Bible, and somehow or another, I don't know how, you read, and you see the financial tithe in there somehow. Okay, so you're not consciously lying to God's people. Does make a difference. You are definitely telling some false doctrines there, right? Okay, so you tell these people who are giving 10% to give their testimony. Well, what happens when this occurs? The tither gets public recognition, right? You call them up. Why? So that they can be highlighted. They get public recognition. Now, the Lord said, if at all possible, now he didn't say in this passage, if at all possible. The reason I'm saying if at all possible is because I'm thinking of other scriptures where the situation, like I said before, where he said, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works. That's why when I put the two together, there are some situations where it is strategically good for the good works to be known. And there are some situations where it is bad for us to do it. And in those situations, it's because the motives of the heart are not right. We're just trying to promote ourselves and say, look at me. I'm a great person. You do that, then you lost the reward, and it doesn't bring glory to God ultimately. Okay. So the tither gets the preacher's praise and recognition. Preachers love, quote, tithers, in the quote. They love them. They love them. They love them. They love them. They exalt them all the time. Why? Because these people are faithful with the money. They provide an unqualified cash flow. You know, come what may, this group of people are going to give, right? Some of them will give because they just, I mean, they don't, I mean, they give because they love God, and God, they've been taught God wants 10%, so they give 10%. Some people are giving because they are scared to death because they've heard all the messages about God's going to blow up their transmission, and he's going to burn down their house or give them cancer, or he's going to rape their little kids, or a flower pot is going to fall on their head. Some tragedy or calamity is going to happen. The devourer is going to come and eat up everything. So they're terrified that if they do not give this 10%, then God is going to withhold his blessings. So the blood of Jesus means nothing. The power of the blood of Jesus is lessened by the amount of money you give. It's heightened or lessened by the amount of money you give. That's wicked. If I think about this, if I give 9.99% of my money, that's not a tithe, because a tithe would be 10%. Okay? If you don't meet the law, you've broken the law. I can give 9.99%, and God, according to them, will look at that and says, no blessings of the blood for you. I'm withholding my love from you. I'm withholding my provision from you. And I'm giving it to the one who tacked on that other 100%. That's wicked, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you get the preacher's praise and favor. Their favor. These are the people who are allowed to work in the church. A lot of times they are allowed to work in the church for free. Think about it. I mean, there's some positions in the church you can't even have to work for free unless you pay 10% of your gross income. Now that's wicked too. All right. Now, here's something else about this practice of calling up the tithers to give their testimonies. The tithing testimony has been vetted. Look, the preacher has already heard the testimony in private, and they like it. Here's the bottom line of the testimony. I gave 10% of my money to this ministry, and God has blessed me. And then they tell you, one of a million different ways they got the blessing. And the obvious correlation would be, hey, this person gave this money, and this is the blessing they received. And we know of a certainty that this blessing came because they gave that 10%. I wonder what would happen if Hugh Hefner was in the church, or the mafiosa Don was in the church. The drug pusher is in the church making his cash. How did he get blessed? He's got a bunch of cash also. They're not paying tithes. Hugh Hefner's not paying tithes. The Playboy Bunny King, he's not paying tithes. Okay, here's something else. Here's one thing that I don't like about calling up the tithers to give the testimony. And let me also say this. I am not saying that there aren't people who believe in the tithe system who aren't being blessed, because look, God blesses us. Thank God. He blesses us despite our ignorance. I mean, routinely. Thank God. And he routinely blesses us despite our sinfulness. Now, that is I am in no way encouraging sin or endorsing it or anything like that. I don't believe in this false grace message where you can live like the devil and still go to heaven. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that the Lord is merciful and kind, and he is committed to those who have a seed of faith, and they are righteous in his eyes, and they're trying their hardest They love God. They stumble. They still have that seed of faith. And that's why it troubles them when they mess up. Well, God blesses them. So you have someone who believes in a lie. They believe that God requires 10% of their income, or they're cursed and they're giving. Can they be blessed? Absolutely. Because they could still love the Lord. So they're giving, and yeah, there's somebody beating them up with fear, manipulation, all these things. But the bottom line is this person fears God. They love the Lord. So they're giving. Yes, God gives. But I can't say he's giving because of the 10%. I can say he is giving them, and they also give 10%. We don't know why they got blessed with a particular thing. We will know on Judgment Day. But what I dislike and what I believe is patently false is when a preacher parades the tithers and says, these people were blessed by God because they tithe. How do you know? Did God tell you that? I mean, there is no such thing as a biblical financial tithe. It's a totally man-made system. Totally man-made. This is like purgatory. This is a totally man-made system. So you can't say because you comply with my made-up doctrine that God is blessing you. No, you can't say it. Well, you can say it, but I mean, that doesn't make it true. So here's the thing. Here's what I would like. And here's what we don't see. Why not put up there and parade the people who tithe and they suffer because they tithe? Why not put up there the people who gave 10% and got kicked out of their house? Or they don't have any health insurance, or their tires are bald. They don't have what we have because they are giving 10%. You know, 10% may seem like it's not a lot. Well, if you're upper middle class, then it's not. If you're rich, it's a great deal. I mean, if you make $1 million a year and somebody tells you God requires only 100,000, that's a great deal. I mean, because you still have 900,000. You make $500,000 and you have to give 10%. What's that? 50,000. You still have 450,000. That's a great deal, right? You make 100,000. You give 10,000. You have 90,000 left. Well, I mean, it's you know, it's still, you know, not a bad deal. You got 90,000 left, and depending upon your bills and whatever, and your family, and how much money you owe Sally Mae and whoever else, student loans, and who knows. Well, look, you make 50,000. We're starting to get into some shake. Matter of fact, we are into some shaky ground. Now you owe 5,000. You got 45,000 left. And remember, this is gross. So now you still you had to pay taxes on 50,000. So you really don't have 45,000 left. You're getting down. What if you make 36,000 a year and you have to give the church 3,600, but you're taxed on that 36,000? You see what I'm saying? This 10% is not equal at all. This 10% is a hardship on the poor, but it is awesome for the rich. Now, does that sound like a system Almighty God would create? Just read the Bible. What does he say about the poor? Is God into crushing poor people? Is he into making poor people more poor? No. I've gotten off into another topic. So anyway, here, let me just sum up these 5 again. So it was number 1, telling those who have no money to come up front and touch the money bucket. Number 2, compelling everyone to go up front for the offering. Number 3, announcing the amount someone gives. Number 4, asking people to raise their hands so someone in the audience can give them money to give. Number 5, asking tithers to give their testimonies. All right, now you know 5 more ways folks have been getting over on us and and manipulating us. So let's back off from that. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Love you. God bless you. Bye-bye.